Hey, welcome to our class of Tuesday Night Beer School with me, Chad of Chad's Beer Reviews. I'm the only one here today. Alright, so we're doing a style. This is a style that I actually love, but these beers are really hard to find anymore. And I'm talking about good old English porter, simply called porter in Britain. The name English porter is used to differentiate from the other derivative porters described in these guidelines. I don't know why I mentioned that. Overall impression: a moderate strength, dark brown English ale with a restrained, roasty, bitter character. May have a range of roasted flavors, generally without burnt qualities, and often has a malty chocolate and caramel profile. Yum. Comments: this style description describes a modern version of English porter, not every possible variation over time. Historical recreations, yeah. History, I mean, pause and read if you really want to. It's really long. Or read one of the Michael Jackson books. I'm sure it's in there. Characters and ingredients. Grist vary. So grist is like the basically the recipe of all the different malts. But something producing a dark color is always involved. Chocolate or other roasted malts, caramel malt, brewing sugars, and the like are common. London-type porters are often used brown malt as a characteristic flavor. Style comparison differs from American porter in that it usually has a softer, sweeter, and more caramelly flavors, lower gravities, and usually less alcohol. American porter also usually has more hop character. They could have just said less hops. More substance and roast than a British brown ale, higher in gravity than a dark mild. And our vitals, it is a pretty light beer, 4 to 5.4 ABV. I mean, it's like the same as like standard lager, just a dark ale. It is like, yeah, SRM 20 to 30, 18 to 35 IBU. So, I mean, that's not super bitter, but considering the gravity and all that, yeah, I guess that's, And for commercial examples, well, I do have one of these. Good old Samuel Smith's Taddy Porter, which I've reviewed on the show many times. I think it was Henry's favorite beer. Maybe it still is. And a new contender. This is an American beer from Wayfinder. They're out of Seattle. This is their Crow Show. And I think that's supposed to be like 1984, like Big Brother there. Pretty sure that would be like the British connection. Also, like the color scheme, that the shade of red is like almost exactly the same shade of red as this one. So I don't know, maybe it's a coincidence. I got this on Tabor, link in the description below, but that's for another time. All right, so I'm gonna get these into glasses and we will start the judging. All right, I am back. I have got the beers poured. I will let you guess which one is which. Time's up. This is Taddy Porter. This is Crow Show. I wonder if this is. By the way, I just realized Wayfinder, they're out of Portland, Oregon, not Seattle. Like there's a difference. All right, so we're gonna start with the visiting team first. So let's start with the Crow Show from Wayfinder. Okay, I would definitely say I get like a chocolatey essence here. Almost has like a Coca-Cola kind of smell to it. I would not call it roasty. It has an impression of sweetness or some kind of like hint of sweetness. But yeah, I would say it is chocolatey. I don't know if I would go as far as say caramelly. It's not really roasty. Let me see what else we can get on here. I actually get quite a bit of, I think it's kind of like piney or almost herbally type hops on here. Definitely not citrusy. Has a little bit of a... What is that note? Yeah, it might be like almost like a scorched sugar or something like that. Yeah. All right. So now for the Taddy Porter. Oh, wow. That's almost night and day difference. Well, the first thing I noticed on this one is that it's a little buttery, or it's like very, very estery. Yeah, I would call that. There's probably some diacetyl in there, which is probably fine, but also big fruits on there, almost like maybe not black currants, but I think like raisins, almost like dried fruits. Little red apple. This one has like. This one doesn't smell. This one smells more fruity, whereas like this one smells like sweet and like chocolatey. almost like blueberry or something on this one. So it's kind of like a berry, a little buttery. I would probably say like this one is caramel. I'm really not getting chocolate on this one, at least not on the nose. And as far as like hops, by the way, this bottle is it's just about a year old, a little less than a year old. And this can is from like November. Yeah, November 22nd. So that's a night and day difference between a 2-month-old can versus almost a year-old bottle. So, yeah. You can just tell, I can just tell the difference right off the nose. It's like American, British, American, British. All right, so let's check the specs on aroma. Moderate to moderately low, bready, biscuity, and toasty malt aroma with mild roastiness, often like chocolate. Okay. They're saying it can go all down to moderately low, mild roastiness. I really don't get roastiness in the other ones, but I do get, kind of a chocolate. Additional malt complexity may be present as caramel and nuts, toffee sweetness. Okay, that's what I was thinking of. I think Samuel Smith's is very, very toffee. And they did say nuts, and I mentioned that the Wayfinder smells kind of like soda, and like actual cola is, like it comes from a cola nut. May have up to moderate levels of floral or earthy hops. Yeah, I mean, I get floral. On the Wayfinder. It does say may have, not must, Moderate fruity esters optional, but desirable. Low diacetyl optional. Okay. Well, I mentioned diacetyl on the Sam Smith's, but like to me, because I have like a trained, sensory, well, your palate is your mouth. I don't know what I have a trained nose, I guess, but so to me, like it smells a little bit more than low, but somebody who like isn't, like a noob off the street, they might not even notice it at all. So how are we gonna score this? All right, so it's just me by myself tonight. So the Sam Smith's Taddy Porter, I mean, the guidelines are written around this style. I think this particular bottle is a little old, but it does seem a little bit more diacetyl-y, and that's all. I think I'm also drinking this like, I'm kind of drinking this like between cellar and room temp right now. So I think that's coming out a little bit more. So I'm gonna say 10. And for the Wayfinder, to me it's a little Americanized. I think it's a little, and it's definitely much more hoppy than the Sam Smith's, but it's also a much fresher container. So I'm gonna say 9. I wouldn't have any problem if I had to bump that up. All right, so appearance. These look almost identical color. I will say the Crow Show is. The Crow Show is like a little bit redder. Sorry, you can't really get the highlights on here. All right, for appearance, well, I actually filmed myself pouring this, and you can see coming out of the bottle or can. Both of these beers, when they're coming out, they're like brown, but once they're into the glass, it looks black. The Wayfinder, get about a thumb width of kind of tan foam, but it dissipated, which is really surprising. It's not like it's like a, sour beer or something. The Sam Smith has stuck around and is still sticking around, so that's a little bit more impressive. I will say both beers are quite clear. I think the Sam Smith is actually clear, probably because the Sam Smith is warmer. It might be a little chill haze on the Wayfinder. So let's check the specs on appearance. Brown to dark brown in color, often with ruby highlights, good clarity, although maybe opaque. Moderate off-white to moderate off-white to light tan head with good to fair retention. Okay, well, they did say fair retention. If I do swirl this up, I get the head back. So, I'm gonna give the Sam Smith's the full 3 out of 3. And I feel like the Wayfinder is like, because I feel like it should be a 3, but I'm going to give it a 2 because it didn't hold the head. But if I had to come back and add a point, I would have no problem giving that the 3. All right, so we're going to start with, like I said, the visiting team. And we'll start with the Wayfinder Crow Show. This is my first time having this beer. Cheers. Yeah. It's fairly sweet up front. Like I said, almost like a Coca-Cola kind of taste, but I mean, not exactly. I would not describe it as nutty, but it does have like a kind of essence of chocolate, almost an essence of toffee or caramel. It's this kind of general sweetness. Actually, kind of, you know, it reminds me of is like almost like a diet soda. Yeah. So it finishes with, I do get a bit of noticeable roasty kind of flavor. It's like roasty, almost like a dark chocolate. So it's kind of like sweet candy, milk chocolate up front. But I'm saying like it's lightly sweet. Like it's like the difference between a candy out of the vending machine versus black or Black Forest cake, like at a German restaurant or something like that. World night and day difference on sweetness there. Yeah, love that. There's a nice, lovely roasty aftertaste, almost a little bit. Kind of reminds me of like a Snickers bar almost. And I will say the hops on this one are pretty fresh, and they are in the American piney kind of range. I would say the actual bitterness is fairly low. I could probably look up the IBUs, but like it's not really relevant to this. But yeah, this is definitely much more malty than it is hoppy, but because it is so fresh and also because it is American beer, the hops are still coming through. By the way, I would say that this has like a bit of a kind of like a nutty or treacle kind of aftertaste. Anyway, let's move on to the home team, Sam Smith's Taddy Porter. Cheers. It's almost like Belgian-y because to me this is like raisin, fig, prune, plum, stuff like that. I do taste the diacetyl, so it does have like a bit of a butter. Actually, it's almost like a butterscotch kind of flavor. And it kind of actually complements that natural toffee character from the malt. It's like fruity with, you know, kind of toffee or caramel kind of in the background. I really don't get chocolate on this one. But oddly enough, I really don't get roast on this one either. Like the Wayfinder is much more roasty, at least like in the aftertaste. Neither of these beers are like roasty up front like you would get like in an American type stout. You know, I'm not getting coffee in either of these. It's just like the flavor of actual roasted malt. And this one's sweet, but in a different way. Whereas like this one's sweet, like almost like in a candy kind of way or a soda kind of way. This one is sweet in like an all natural fruity kind of way. I think a lot of the yeast character is driving a lot of the flavor here and like a lot of the sweetness. Hops have definitely faded on this one. They're very like nondescript. Maybe I would say earthy. They're definitely not piney, certainly not citrusy. Yeah, and I guess like maybe you would say floral or earthy, but like the actual bitterness is fairly low. For a bottle that's almost a year old, I'm really not getting oxidation on this one. I think because the beer actually is like so legitimately flavorful, any oxidation that's in there like is getting obscured by the actual legit base beer flavor. I will say both beers are tasty in their own right, but for different reasons. All right, so let's check the specs on flavor. Moderate bready, biscuity, and toasty malt flavor with a mild to moderate chocolate roastiness, and often a significant caramel, nutty, or toffee character, possibly with lower levels of darker flavors like coffee or licorice. Oh man, that's a run-on sentence. We gotta split that up, BJCP. All right, so I wouldn't really call either of these beers bready. Toasty, yes. Biscuity, I mean, depends on what they mean by biscuity. They mean by like the British word for biscuity, like cookie, or like, KFC type of biscuit. Chocolate roastiness, yes. Caramel, nutty, or toffee character, yeah. With lower levels of darker licorice. Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's the flavor I was thinking of for this. Yeah, the Sam Smith has like a bit of a licorice kind of note to it. Should not be burnt or harshly roasted. Neither of these are. Although small amounts may contribute a bitter chocolate complexity. No, I'm not getting burnt or anything on either of these. Up to moderate earthy or floral hop optional. Okay. To me, the Wayfinder is noticeably piney. They're probably using Cascade hops or something like that. And it does say optional, so the lack of hops in the Sam Smith isn't really a penalty. Low to moderate fruity esters. I would say the Sam Smith has moderate fruity esters. Yeah, fairly low on the Wayfinder. Medium low to medium bitterness. Varies the balance from slightly malty to slightly bitter. That's interesting. With a fairly dry to slightly sweet finish. Wow, they give you quite a range there. All right, well, I would say the Wayfinder is, yeah, medium bitterness. Although I would say both beers finish malty. And I would say the Wayfinder finishes, yeah, fairly dry to lightly sweet. Yeah. Moderate low, diacetyl optional. Okay. I mean, the Sam Smith, I think because it's, fairly warm, it seems like it's a little bit more than just moderately low. But wow, I mean, it's like, I've been doing this show for like almost 2 years now, and that's something I noticed. It's just like the way these guidelines are written. It's like these two different beers can like fit the guidelines for so vastly different reasons. All right, so the Sam Smiths. I've had this beer many times. I don't know if like this certainly isn't the best bottle I've ever had of it, but it's for the specs as we're reading it right now. It's right there, man. It's really good. I'm gonna go 18, and I'm gonna go 17 for the Wayfinder. Maybe that's a little high. I mean, it's high in that it's fresh and it's to the specs. I just think I kind of penalize it for being a little too piney hop, but otherwise it's right there. All right, let's talk about mouthfeel. We will start with the Crow Show from Wayfinder. By the way, this is 5.5 ABV. Well, the first thing I noticed about this is that the mouthfeel is actually a little thin for, especially for a porter. But again, these aren't like super thick, heavy beers to begin with. Although it is 5.5, which is, you would think like you're going to get like at least a medium mouthfeel on this one. And I would say this is kind of more like medium light. Carbonation is, I'd probably also say it's like medium light. Let's give the Sam Smith's a try. It doesn't say in the bottle, but I just looked it up and it is 5% ABV. And again, it is a world of difference. The first thing I noticed on this one, the first sip that I took, I didn't mention at the time, was the mouthfeel. This one has a legit thick mouthfeel, or at least when you go from this to this, I noticed like I'm going from like something light to like something fairly heavy. Like it seems like these should be the other way around, because the Sam Smith is only 5% ABV, whereas the Wayfinder is 5.5. And this has like, I would say like a legit medium, maybe like medium plus body. I don't know if I would go as far as say like medium full. It's like not that thick, but in carbonation on this one, I'd probably say it's about moderate, maybe moderately low. The diacetyl there is giving like a little bit of a much smoother texture, whereas like the Wayfinder feels a little bit more, dare I say, like crisp. This is not, super thick and sticky. Not that it's supposed to be. Whenever we see dark beer, we just think, big, bold, thick, sticky, and like the English porter style. Like this is like sessionable beer. It's also a dessert beer too. But I will say both beers are really easy to drink and a pleasure to drink. So let's check the specs on mouthfeel. Medium light to medium body. Okay. Moderately low to moderately high carbonation. Light to moderate creamy texture. All right. Well, I would say these beers both fit there. The Wayfinder is medium light. The Sam Smith is medium body. The Wayfinder is moderately low. The Sam Smith is, I don't know if it goes as far as say moderately high. Probably about moderate carbonation, light to moderate creamy texture. Yeah, I would say the Sam Smith's, I think because of the diacetyl in there, it is giving it, like I said, a bit of a smoother, creamier body. It does say light to moderate creamy texture. It doesn't say may have. So the fact it doesn't say may have means that like that's expected. I think the Wayfinder is like missing a bit on the actual texture, but otherwise, I mean, it's right there. So let's bring up the score sheet. All right, so for the Sam Smith for mouthfeel, I'm going full 5 out of 5 on that one. Wayfinder, I'm giving it a demerit a little bit. I'm going 4. And overall, Sam Smith's, I mean, it's one of my favorite beers. I think it's a great example of the style. You can get this pretty much anywhere. But again, we're always judging the bottle that we have, or the container, I should say. This bottle's a little old, and it hasn't really been damaged or hurt that much, but this should be a 10. I should give this a 10, but I think this particular bottle, I think, is about a 8 or a 9. I think I'm going to say 8. I mean, I probably could go 9. Oh, man, we're at 44. That's so high. All right, so I'm going to bump the aroma up to 11, and I'm going to bump the overall up to a 9. That gives us a 46, so that's in the world-class range right there. Anything over 46 to 50 is world-class. The Wayfinder, I will say, is definitely one of the better American examples of the style that I've had. Not that there are that many, but, it's to me, it's a little Americanized. And so, I mean, just to grade it towards specs, it's a little lacking. So I'm going to say 8 for this one, which that's going to bring me up to 40. And I did say, like, I could bring up some of these other ones. I probably could go 10 for appearance and 3 on aroma, but I don't think I could change anything else. And so it's somewhere between, 38 and 42, something like that. So there you go. American versus, newcomer American versus old school British, OG example of the style. If you've never had either of these beers, I would definitely recommend them. And I mean, this one is certainly much easier to come by, I would assume. I don't know. I think they're in all 50 states, but I could be wrong. But everywhere I've gone, I've seen Sam Smith. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Somebody brewed it, Chad just reviewed it. Thanks for watching Chad's Beer Review.
Trust me, the next episode will be a lot better.